We got some news to get into here, boys, as the official launch of Season 2 was really this Tuesday. I should say 12.1 with the launch of Season 2, so a lot of things to talk about there. Also, some more stuff to get into when it comes to how the season's doing overall, really looking at how everything's progressing, how the raid's going, and Race to World First. So let's get into that. So far, there was a big issue yesterday with logging in. If you had an issue logging in yesterday afternoon, you were not alone. There was totally a major issue with that as people were not able to log in. Blizzard supposedly resolved the report after 2 hours of delays where people really couldn't log in for 2 to 3 hours, being stuck in queue or being DC'd and not being able to join back in. That issue supposedly now resolved, but that was a problem yesterday. Hotfixes also hit the servers yesterday. Let's get into some of those, specifically some class fixes. Unholy Decays kind of got a buff out of this fix. Evidently, they were kind of not working properly, so this should be better for them. But overall, Death Knight, they resolved an issue causing Army of the Dead epidemic orders to cast from the Death Knight instead of the Lesser Ghoul. For Unholy specifically, they resolved an issue causing Forbidden Knowledge rank 4 to not have a chance to activate when the Dread Plague target has a damage absorb effect, so that was actually lessening their damage. They also resolved an issue causing a Transfusion to not empower already summoned Lesser Ghouls, resolved an issue causing the Lord of the Dead to occasionally have a delay between his casts, so all of these things were kind of hurting Unholy DK damage, so all these fixes kind of are buffs for them. And then Dark Simulacrum can now be tracked through the cooldown manager, so that's a little add in there. Also for Druid Restoration, they fixed an issue where Rejuvenation could be removed earlier if the player gained a lost haste while it was active. For Hunter Marksmanship, they corrected an issue where Rapid Fire fired fewer shots than intended when hitting a second target with Aspect of the Hydra talent. And then for Paladin Retribution, they fixed an issue where all Retribution Paladins have mental issues. I think I read that wrong. Hold on. It's they fixed an issue where Paladins talented into Radiant Glory would not have Avenging Wrath be applied after casting Wake of the Ashes while silenced. So there you go for that one. For Shaman Restoration, Totemic corrected an issue where Whirling Water effect was not properly working. They fixed a few issues in the Delves, and then for Dungeons and Raids, it looks like specifically the Blinding Veil, there was an issue here. Ruby Life Pools, Temple of Silthralis, Venomous Abyss. There's just a bunch of little fixes here and there going on. And then a few other things happening, specifically with the Venomous Abyss. It looks like a bunch of issues there were going on. So a bunch of fixes. Not going to get into how many of these were issues, but no real changes in terms of nerfs or buffs. Just a lot of issues going on there. For items specifically, the Warlord's Vengeance, Ammon Muso, is again restricted to main hand only slots. Turned out that this was not supposed to or intended to be a weapon that rogues could use. It was not actually on their loot table, but they were able to be traded the axe, which has a cantrip effect on it, and evidently able to dual wield these two axes, which was leading to crazy rogue outputs. So Blizzard went back and changed that one. It was not intended for rogues to be able to use this thing, so now it's back to a main hand only weapon. PvP Conqueror's Venomous Lacour should now add PvP items level 2 tier shoulders when used, and then some quest fixes here and there for any of you guys still questing out there, so that should be no longer an issue. Hunters specifically, you huntards out there, what's wrong with you guys? Turns out that yesterday they were having a thing where they were able to unlock the achievement, the Midnight Season 2 Catalyst Unbound, early. Turns out that hunters specifically, when equipping their 2 set, were being given credit for having a 4 set. And given the achievement and everything, now, the achievement in and of itself is not a big deal, but what that meant for hunters specifically is they were unlocking the ability to loot more catalyst charges. So hunters, over the last couple of days, were looting extra catalyst charges, being able to use them if they wanted to or if they hadn't already. That's since been fixed. So the achievement's been retroactively taken away. I don't know if anyone actually got extra catalyst charges out of this or not, or if they used them already, if Blizzard's going to retroactively pull that shit back or not, I have no idea. But this was an issue. It's been fixed, so you've lost your achievement. You will no longer loot extra catalyst charges until you actually have your 4 set. Changes happening with Ulatek, specifically Ulatek, the boss fight. By the way, this boss fight's been praised for having really cool visuals. Evidently, people really like it. It seems like a cool boss fight. I have yet to do it. We're going to continue to clear the raid today and try to get to him. But on normal and heroic difficulty, he has recently been nerfed already. Yeah, we're already seeing nerfs to raid bosses. Ulatek specifically has been nerfed with one ability that was scaling a bit too hard. The Spectral Coils ability is a soak ability, but it kind of works in a different way than a soak. Typically, soaks work where everyone in the soak, right, takes a bit of damage, and the damage is split over everybody who's in the soak. Well, this ability specifically, everybody who gets into the soak lessens the raid-wide damage that goes out. That's how this thing works. So everyone gets in the soak, and then a raid-wide damage explodes, and the more people in the soak, the more the damage is, the less the damage hits everybody for. Well, evidently this thing was scaling really hard beyond 10 players, so up to 30 players would lead to a 200% bonus on the damage, which means when you got a 10-man raid and 10 people get into it, you would have a 50% damage output from the blast that goes off, which is about 340k. But with 30 players, with 30-man raid, if you had about 50% of the raid get into it, which would be like 15 players, you would end up having something crazy like over 1 million damage. Yeah, over 1 million damage hitting the raid. So it was scaling a bit in a weird way. Blizzard's recently nerfed it so that should scale more properly. This was specifically for normal and heroic. The Race to World First, speaking of raid, that thing's off to a shit start. Let's just say that there was some issues, some lags problems, specifically weird stuff going on, so they're calling it a poisonous start to the raid. Right now, nobody's progressed on anything. This is a live look at the current raid lookout, and yeah, nobody has made any real progress on this. We're still 0 of 8 on all the mythic kills. Everyone's currently doing their double runs, getting all geared out and everything. So right now, no Race to World First progress. Just know the race is on, but nobody's really killed anything just yet. Speaking of, getting geared, because that's what these Race to World First boys are doing. There's a couple ways to get some really good gear right now. You can earn a champion track ring right now from the Venomous Abyss quest. Chapter 5 Curse of Ulutek main campaign brings us into a new 8-boss raid. We already know that. Chapter 5 starts with the Venomous Abyss quest, requiring players to complete the raid. By doing that, you will receive a champion level ring that you'll be able to pick. So obviously just going into the raid, making sure you have this quest before you go into the raid is important, and getting yourself that champion level ring. Also, there's a heroic gear available for anybody who's willing to do a little bit of PvP with their PP. That's right, picking up this 1 of 3 week Gladiator Distinction quest in Silvermoon will be a 3-week-long quest that you'll be able to do 1 time per week, and once you complete 3 times, you will actually be able to pick a piece of heroic gear. That's right, heroic gear being awarded from this thing. Specifically, you'll get, first of all, they'll give you 2 trinkets to be able to go into the PvP and do this. So you'll basically get 2 freebie heroic trinket, or not heroic, but basically 2 PvP trinkets. Go in and PvP, and you'll eventually be able to pick your choice of hero track gear, which is 305 to 321 item level, a neck or ring item specifically. So that's good for anybody who wants a little piece of heroic gear and is ready to do some PvP. You just got to do the training grounds. That's what you got to get into and finish out this quest for 3 weeks. Now, getting more into the raid again. The buff starts, if you guys remember, there's a buff that passively happens every single week that the raid is open. That will kick off in 28 days. So on September 15th, we can already see the raid timer in the game. Now it's probably 27 days. On September 15th, we'll start to get that passive little buff, 1% each week, leading up to 15% in total towards the end of healing and DPS outputs. So Blizzard set it up just like they did in the previous season, so now we know that how it's going to work. Basically, midway through the season, the buff will start, leading up to a 15% buff in total when it's all said and done. Now, out of Raid and into Mythic Plus. Let's talk a little bit about the Mythic Plus numbers and how they're looking so far this season, because it's an interesting season so far, but it is an easy season, I will say. So after looking at the first 24 hours, we're going to compare how this season's looking to previous Season 2s for other expansions. And first of all, we can see here a comparison between the first week of the first day of a first season versus a second season. So Season 1 versus Season 2 player drop-off. So we see here, like, Season 1 for BFA, how many players were, running shit and how many runs were happening versus the start of the second season. We see quite a big drop-off there. Looking over here at Shadow, look at how big this fucking drop-off was. Season 1, Week 1, man, sky high. And then Season 2, Week 1, look at that drop-off. Man, Shadowlands really did some damage to the player base, and these numbers continue to show stuff like that. Dragonflight was praised for being able to hold players and keep people playing the game, and it looked pretty good. The drop-off was very minimal, and then actually the War Within, even more minimal here. So interestingly enough, there was barely any drop-off there. Now, looking at the drop-off overall, though, for this season, we see a first week was 51.1% Shadowlands here. The drop-off was even lower this time around for Midnight, 18.833%. That was for the War Within. That was Chinese. Now, Midnight Season 1 was a bigger outlier that showed early on that players just kept running more and more dungeons due to the much easier tuning. The big difference between Midnight Season 2 might tip the scales a lot, though. Raiding has become quite relevant this season. That's true. Raiding is now the best way to gear out because of how the vault rewards work, giving you like hero track gear for doing normal or myth track gear for doing heroic. So after the first week has finished, we'll look at these numbers again and see how Midnight is looking. But right now, we're expecting a bit more of a drop-off, but shit, nothing like Shadowlands. My God, that was absolutely insane. Now, the first 24 hours of previous seasons, we can actually get some Midnight data here because we're looking at 24 hours to give us a little bit of a hint at how Midnight's panning out specifically. Look at that, guys. Midnight's doing better than the War Within or anything else here. So comparing, I guess, the War Within to Midnight specifically, we have the War Within runs for Season 1, 24 hours, and Season 2, 24 hours. We got runs and then different characters. So that's the number of alts people are actually running with. Again, Midnight's doing really good when compared to the War Within. We got better numbers here. People seem to want to get into Mythic Plus more, and they're doing it with more characters. Again, smaller drop-off from Season 1 to Season 2, it looks like. So Midnight overall, Season 2 so far, looking healthy. Speaking of health, look at that spread of all the different dungeons here. Specifically, Murderer's Row is number 1. Den of Nalorok is at the bottom here, but the difference between them is not much. We're talking just a few thousand different runs here, so right now it looks like it's a very even spread. Completed and timed runs are looking good too. Nothing too crazy happening. We don't see any specific dungeon that's really got a major drop-off in the number of completed runs, but overall an even spread of attempts. It doesn't look like anybody's found their favorite just yet. It seems like it's all pretty well and good. Murderous Row seems to be the favorite of the player base right now, followed by Altar of Fangs, then Ruby Life Pools, King's Rest, Voidscar Arena, Temple of Siltheralis, The Blinding Veil, and Den of Nalorok to finish it out there, but no big separation really between any of them. Now, looking at completion rates and how it's all looking, I will say Altar of Fangs is the red line, and then you got everything combined for the blue line there in terms of completion percentage. It looks like Altar of Fangs is the hardest, at least for the first 24 hours. That seems to be the hardest dungeon right now. That one looks like the one that people are completing at the smallest rate. But overall, the rates look pretty good. We're seeing up to a 15 being completed. 16 seems to be the wall right now for completion rate. For Altar of Fangs, the highest one that's been completed is a 13. So looking at the completion rate overall, this is pretty standard. Looks good. The season so far, I think on Easy Street, for the most part, just like Midnight Season 1, the ease has been there. And obviously the number of keys being completed in terms of what level? Yeah, level 10. 10 keys are the highest level completed that everyone's doing right now. That's the most people running are doing a 10 right now. We see 12s being completed, and then 13 is the big drop-off where really nobody's doing anything else. 14, nobody's completed any of those yet. So 16, I should say, is really the killer. Some people have done some 14s, but right now, overall, looking at these numbers, first 24 hours, again, you got to take it with a grain of salt. I think the numbers look good. The season looks good. I think people were worried about this dungeon pool, but it looks like it's having a good time. A Bev coming in with that sub. Thank you so much. Tier 1.
Hi, Sammy. Hope you're well.
I'm well. Thank you so much for that sub. I appreciate it. Now looking at the overall numbers again. Season 2 percentage time in time. Looking at how difficult some of these dungeons are. Pretty standard numbers here. We got some good-looking numbers matching up with Season 1 as well. Season 1, you see, is a little bit higher, but it looks like really they're kind of in line with each other. So the difficulty in terms of the two seasons, it looks like it's going pretty good. In conclusion, for now, Season 2 of Midnight is still easy, just not as simple as Season 1. Fill your vault with as much as you can. Altar of Fangs needs some clear nerfs, preferably before the weekend, and hopefully those come in full force and don't leave it with a gap, right, compared to the rest of the dungeons. If Mythic Plus activity remains within the compared range of about 30% for the rest of the week, we might see somewhere with 3.7 million runs. Damn, that's a lot of runs. But that would also rely on a similar pattern of Asian servers, which still have not reset yet. If we get some major nerfs to Mythic Plus within a few days, we'll take another look at the numbers over the weekend. Regardless, expect a full breakdown of Week 1 metrics once that's out. And obviously, when those week 1 metrics come out, we'll look at them here on stream. But looking at Raid, Race to World First, everything seems to be going well. Race to World First, a bit clunky at the beginning, but the Raid overall, I think, has been praised. It's been pretty good so far, for me at least. There's DC issues, server issues, those things are going on, but hopefully those are getting fixed. And for today, that is all in terms of news.